can still remember what it was like the first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation, but I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes, because you never know what's around the next corner. My name is Bill Watson, and this is my story.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Macbeth has crept forward in the points fight, but is it too little, too late? Modov has the ability to clinch it today and make it back-to-back championships. Though his season hasn't been as dominant as the last one, he's still only missed the podium once so far. The Club West driver seems incredibly Dixon-like, with even his bad finishes reeling in heaps of points race after race. But undoubtedly, he'd love to get back on the top step again, with his last win coming back at Imola. We'll see if he can add another victory to his tally as we get ready to watch round 9 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, Road Atlanta is honestly among my favorite tracks to drive, but if there's one thing I've learned both from being on the tarmac and in the booth, this place bites, and it bites quickly.
Yeah, Joe, it's definitely got a reputation to do just that, and I think we're going to see a little bit of that tonight as well. For a 2.5-mile lap around a track, you wouldn't expect the lap times to be as low as they are here at Road Atlanta. This one throws a fun and interesting challenge for the drivers tonight because, yes, Road Atlanta being 2.5 miles or just 4 kilometers, it showcases its high speeds and lots of daunting portions, but it also showcases a lot of technical sections as well. This combination makes those technical corners quite fast, often creating lots of attrition and equipment to be torn up off of some easy-to-make mistakes. Sports cars have been racing here for quite some time, a couple decades, but most notably in the Petit Le Mans in IMSA. And all the bumps and curbs here in the Georgia venue that the drivers are going to feel tonight are packed with history. It's definitely, like you said, a fan and driver favorite, which generally makes for some great competitiveness as well. For those unfamiliar with the roller coaster here, located 35 miles outside the city in a forest, allow me to send you down to the front stretch as you ride on board the GSRC Lap Guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Road Atlanta. Coming down to turn 1, this is a frighteningly fast corner. You might still see some brave passes into here, but a mishap tends to end your day quickly. From there, you'll try to line yourself up over the blind crest of 2 and set up for 3. Knowing your turn-in point will be tricky and require great precision. After that, you'll hug the inside of 4 to set yourself up for the S's. The racing through this valley should be pretty much single file all day, otherwise you're taking an incredible risk. Turn 5 sees a lot of unforced errors, and most drivers pay for it in bodywork with how little runoff there is on either side. Finally, you get a short breather up to 6, which has more camber than you'd expect. That makes it tough to overtake here, and honestly, it's better to set yourself up for 7 anyways. This is the most critical corner of the circuit, with it leading you onto the backstretch. Fail to get a good launch on the exit, and you'll find yourself very vulnerable to attack. You see, it's not just the slipstream that offers your opponents a good opportunity. It's the fact that the turn 10 chicane is one of the heaviest braking zones of the lap. For the layman, that means a majority of the passes you'll see will take place here. So if the other driver doesn't get it done on the straight, they're likely to try to beat you to the apex when you get on the binders. From off the corner, you'll already start aiming the car across the crest and under the bridge. From there, it's very marginal getting through the final corner, which is another really dangerous turn. But hopefully you've kept it together and have now finished the lap around Road Atlanta. That was a lap around Road Atlanta, and while our 4GT made it cleanly around, hopefully we'll see most of the cars make it cleanly around those laps in the race today, because we can't guarantee everyone's going to see the finish. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. The Simulation Motorsports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing esports world. SIMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Fraser & Dieter. Fraser & Dieter is a nationally recognized PCAOB registered CPA and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Fraser & Dieter has consistently been named a best of the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FraserDieter.com. Let's take a look at the championship. I mentioned a little bit, hinting at what we've got in store in terms of the point situation. But Nick, what's the bigger story?
Well, you said it earlier briefly. Karl Modoff, he's got a chance to clinch it tonight. He's 21 points back. And yeah, Sean Macbeth finally got that big win last week at Mid-Ohio that he's been waiting for all season long. He hasn't had a single race without a top 5. Same with Karl Modoff. And he finally got that big win, but it's really going to take a lot more than that. He's going to need some bad luck out of Karl Modoff if he wants to close that gap, because you can see just how little that closed from last week. Andres Espinosa losing touch with the leaders a little bit, and a bit of a battle for 4th going on. Christian Eisler has jumped Dan Revito there, but just by 4 points. We also have a teams championship to pay attention to, and this one has also extended up front. The SRT Esports Team North has extended that to a 23-point gap. 56 points back from the leaders is the SRT Team East, Coca Motoclar Racing Team with Modoff and Clark in between there. The West Team for SRT and Team Bushfink Racing remain quite a ways down. That all those gaps continue to grow, so it doesn't look like much at stake anymore for there. But then again, you do have that one drop week, and You can see teams like Team Bushfink have yet to take a drop week. Everyone else has drop points, though, so it's going to be very interesting to see how everything shakes out in the penultimate round tonight.
And this penultimate round, let's get you up to speed on what exactly it will entail. As you would imagine, it is round 9 out of 10. And there's that one drop week that comes into play for the points. Now, those are the 4 cars that they are eligible to drive in this series. These are all GTE class cars, what you'd see at Le Mans or at IMSA. These drivers have a 45-minute race. This is their sprint format. And despite that, there is one scheduled pit stop in this race. That's because they've limited the fuel cells compared to what the real things can run in a full tank. Now, the setups on the car are open, so they can tweak them to their liking. And as we've seen, at the higher level of racing, the setup can make a difference, even though on road racing it's not as critical as it is sometimes on the oval side. They have an incident cap of 24. They will be disqualified if they go over that. They have no spare car if they get any sort of damage to try and recover their race. So they've got to come in and get that repaired if they run into some sort of damage on the car. As we saw one of our BMWs take there on the front stretch. This race is being shown once again live on the iRacing Esports Network. When you get the opportunity, make sure and subscribe to IESN. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click the button that says subscribe. Taking a look at the qualifying taking place. Interestingly, last round's winner, Sean Macbeth, looking very good right now. But our current championship leader is not. Carl Modoff mired down in 8th, Nick.
Yeah, right now he's riding around with Corey Clark, his teammate. Looks like he might be helping Clark with some slipstream right now. I'm wondering, sometimes we see Modoff put in some fast late laps. I'm wondering if that's what he's got up his sleeve. But really, he's not too far off the pace. He's only less than 4 tenths behind. He's about 3.5 tenths of a second off Sean Macbeth. That's how tight our top 10 is. About half a second separate them all.
All right, let's see what this one across the line has for Modoff. And it looks like, unfortunately, that one will not count for the number 48. So he'll have to continue around another time. He's starting to run out of laps, though, to get one in. The good news is it looks like conditions are pretty ideal out there as we watch Richter come around to complete a lap. Let's see if this one's any faster. Nope. It looks like that one is not going to count for him. But yeah, the weather out here today, Nick, seems like if it stays this way, it should provide good chance for side-by-side racing.
Yeah, I definitely think so. That partly cloudy, cloud cover up there right now, and a pretty cool temperature as well. Not too much wind. We are just outside Atlanta, so you're kind of in the middle of the forest here in North Georgia. So you're going to have a couple breezy days like this. But, air temperature of 70 degrees, very comfortable out there with a track temperature just slightly higher at 75. I suspect that to get very grippy, like you said. Yeah, I think side-by-side action and lots of passing here we'll see because of that as well.
This is Christian Eisler currently in 6th and 1/1000th behind Pete Mobrotten. Has not been able to improve, but neither has Pete. So even though they used to be on 1st and 2nd, they've been slowly shuffled downwards. And, Carl Modoff just took the pole. When I wasn't looking, he puts in a 1:14.8, and he is the only driver to crack into the 1:14 so far here in qualifying.
Not just the only driver to crack into the 1:14s, also to crack into the 1:14.8. No one has hit 1:14.9 as we saw Flores come across there.
Jorge Flores
He remains
is
in
on
third.
a bit of a slow lap. So this one probably setting himself up to go on a flyer. Sean Macbeth is currently in 2nd on qualifying, and he's coming out just now. I think he's got enough time to start one flyer, and that's all he's going to get to try and get that pull back away from Modoff. In fact, so we take a look at Eisler. Carl Modoff is coming around for another lap right now, but I think he looks a little slow. Yeah, that one not going to count for him. So he is starting a flying lap right now, and I think he might actually be the first one to get the checkered flag.
You know, Joe, we have a couple of surprises up here in the top 10. Pete Mobrotten has found his way up into 6th. Leif Peterson up into 8th. With all the attrition that we've talked about here at Road Atlanta, we might see someone get a surprise podium.
Certainly could. Abner Acosta, another lap that did not count for him. You see Mobrotten is coming across right now. He sits in 6th, as you said. A 1:15.2 is going to put him up to P5.
Number 15 BMW looking pretty fast today.
Sean Macbeth, he's trying to start that flying lap. Remember, he was just coming out of the pits a bit ago. He's giving a nice little tow to the car behind him. Trying to make out who that is. One of the Speedworks drivers, it looks like. This is Uribe, who jumps up to 13th. And this is going to be it. Karl Modoff, I believe, will get the checkered flag, and indeed he won't set a time. He's going to abandon it as he comes into the pits. Behind him, Joey Trungale gets the checkered flag first. He does not improve. Leif Peterson is going to cross. He's in 8th right now, up towards the top 10. And a 15.2 is about a 10th faster, but does not improve his position on the grid. Way down for the number 18 car of Hugo Galaz. Currently sitting in 25th, a 1:16.9. Let's see if he can go any faster. He does, a 1:16.7. And Pete Mobrotten does not improve on his last lap. Sean Macbeth is coming across right now. He's trying to get ahead of Modoff, and now Flores too, because Flores goes faster than him. As Modoff crosses the line, it's a 15 flat, but that's only good enough for the front row. He cannot take the pole off of Modoff, and I believe he's the last one to cross the line here. That was tight for the pole. There is just barely over a 10th between the top 3. Let's go through your starting order and read you off how they will take the green flag. It'll be Karl Modoff up at the top, as we mentioned, with Sean Macbeth running in 2nd. Jorge Flores will be P3, followed by the winner at Road America, Abner Acosta, in 4th. Pete Mobrotten will be starting P5, and Zach Hefner, another former winner in this season, in 6th. Christian Eisler starts 7th. Leif Peterson will flank him in 8th. Then in row 5, you've got Andre Espinoza in 9th, and Corey Clark rounds out your top 10.
Right behind him, Federico Montini, coming off his first DNF of the season, but he's been dealing with lots of bad luck in the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's looking to turn that around tonight. He starts 11th alongside Jean-Marc Tremblay in the 927 machine. Pablo Uribe in that bright red Ford, going to be behind them in 13th, alongside Justin Raymond, the 88. The 69 of Brett Thurman will round out the top 15 with Josh Daniels alongside him. Dan Revito, Takeshi Kita, Joey Trungale, and Rodrigo Munoz will round out the top 20.
21st is going to be Maxi Sorella with Kenny Rodriguez starting 22nd. Cristobal Valenzuela will be 23rd, and Hugo Galaz starts in 24th. Mike Richter starts 25th, and Mike Cray starts 26th. Both Mikes on the last row. Every driver managed to set a lap time this time. So we've got something representative as we take a look at them gridding up on a somewhat downhill, somewhat crooked start, but thankfully it is not a standing start out there today. Everyone's going to be able to get the car warmed up, get it ready as they follow behind the Porsche pace car. So with this championship looking like it could wrap up today, Karl Modoff, Nick, who puts it on pole, is starting himself on the right foot to try and maybe do it, but he'll need a little bit of luck on his side, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Sean Macbeth right alongside of him. I don't know if one position is, one position over him is definitely going to help, especially if it's a win, but I think he's going to need a little bit more. Those curbs sticking themselves out and biting someone the wrong way, he definitely needs one of them to do that to Sean Macbeth tonight, and there's definitely a lot of troublesome spots on this track for that to happen, especially if Sean Macbeth gets real aggressive trying to pass the 48.
And we've seen lately in some weird circumstances. It seems like Modoff has been struggling at the start of races. We saw that in Mid-Ohio, where he fell back very suddenly early on and then suddenly found his feet. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the interviews. Did he ever explain what exactly caused that?
Not that I can remember. I think he was dealing with some setup, just, imbalances in the car at that point in the race, and then finally found the grip later on in the run. But yeah, we definitely have seen that quite a bit. And we've also seen him make quite a few mistakes this year. He's definitely made less mistakes than the average race car driver. But, for being Karl Modoff and coming off that huge 10 or 11 win streak last season, I should say, definitely subpar for him this year, I think, for what he'd like to get out of himself.
And that's saying something when you've only missed the podium once out of 8 races, that is considered subpar. So as we come up through one of the tricky spots here, turn 5, which has gobbled up many a race car over the years, my eyes are kind of on Abner Acosta. Had a win at Road America, as I mentioned, also on the podium at Mid-Ohio last week. He'll start within the front 2 rows. He's come in and shown himself to be someone to watch out for. We now on to the long back stretch. One of the topics that seems to be of note for much of the season is the draft, since we have a lot of draft-heavy tracks in a row, but haven't had quite as many. This backstretch, it's incredibly long. Is this enough to offer a draft that passes can happen, or are these GTE cars too slippery?
Well, the GTE cars are pretty slippery, but I don't think you can tell any of these 26 drivers that. I think they're going to use that slipstream to their advantage and find a way to get around some people down into that chicane.
Let's see if anybody does. Plunging downhill. Honestly, one of my favorite braking zones in racing. Just taking it hard and deep, letting the compression stop the car, and then you've got this little chicane that invites you to take it tighter and tighter, quicker and quicker. And so you have to get back on the power, up over the crest, under the Suzuki Bridge. We'll be seeing that a lot today because they're about to start as Karl Modoff now has control of the field. Green flag is out here for round 9 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Challenge. And he's got a clear jump ahead of Sean Macbeth, who has to go defensive on Abner Acosta, who's looking fast around the outside as they all swing through the first turn. Are we going to be clean? It looks like it. Now they hit turn 3.
A little bit of 3-wide action further back. Looks like that's getting itself sorted out, but yeah, you said it perfectly. Modoff with a marvelous start there. Macbeth, nothing he could have done. Flores looks like he's going to fend off, Acosta going to fend off Flores for that 3rd place position.
In fact, those top 3 starting to spread out just slightly. Flores, if anything, the first one very much under threat with Zach Hefner behind him. Pete Mobrodden as well trying to challenge. They come onto the backstretch for the first time and get the cars wound up as they come over the crests and weave their way down towards the chicane.
Sometimes, Joe, it's not all the slipstream here that has effect, but that braking zone downhill, it's so hard to judge, and a lot of times you see people bunch up, just like we saw there a little bit with Flores.
Not seeing any attacks, really. I see one car off, though. That was Takeshi Kita, who unfortunately has lost ground. Meanwhile, Acosta just got overtaken by Hefner, who now moves himself into 4th.
Yeah, Flores and Hefner getting around Acosta there, so 2 spots lost for Abner there. Not a great chicane for that BMW.
Bad news for Takeshi Kita. That off course was a cut course. He's dropped all the way to the back of the field. So big disappointment for the number 30 car as we watch Hefner continue to try his charge up onto the podium. Jorge Flores currently stopping him from that. Speedworks driver swings it around turn 6 onto the backstretch. Let's see if this offers anything to the number 1, 2, 3.
He's definitely been looking strong, but so has Flores in that first lap. You can see them pull away from Acosta just a little bit.
And as they head to the braking zone, though Zach is close, Certainly not close enough in that Ferrari to go on the attack on Flores. As we watch this, we don't need to leave this. I can report that Modoff has got about half a second over Macbeth, and though that won't seal the championship, it'll make it all the harder when they come to the final round. If they stay how they are, you can see up at the top of the screen, many cars sending fastest lap. Hefner currently holding it there in 4th.
Hefner all over the back of Jorge Flores right now as they weave their way through the S's. I think he's faster than him. He's just got to find a way around him.
Over turn 5, he continues to stay glued to the rear bumper of Flores' machine. Let's see if he sets himself up to try and get a run onto the backstretch. He is awful close, only a car length behind. Porsche, known for powering well out of slow corners, and it looks like he's done it again. Down the backstretch, that draft reels in the Ferrari a little bit and a little bit, but just not enough each time by. He's going to have to find something else somewhere to try and squeak by the Porsche. Down in 6th place, we mentioned Pete Mobrotten looking very, very good. Even though he gritted up in 5th, he's down 1 spot. He's in 6th position, but he's holding his own. And I'd say that a top 5 is certainly not off of the cards for Pete.
Yeah, especially considering the only person that's been able to pass Pete Mobrotten today is Zachary Hefner. We've seen how fast he is here right at the start. He looks to be closing in on Abner Acosta, who started up in 4th. Was in P3 there at the beginning of the race. Seems to be closing in on Acosta here for 5th, though.
On board with Hefner, looking back at Abner. Ooh, they all accordion together, coming through 6. But once again, Hef also looking strong off that corner. In fact, this might be the best run we've seen from Hefner on Flores. He's starting to get awful close. I think this Ferrari is going to have a go once they hit the braking zone. Let's see if he wants it. Oh, not quite yet. He still hangs on the racing line.
I'll tell you what, it got real close in front of him, too. Jorge Flores closing in on the back of Sean Macbeth. I'm sorry, that was Macbeth closing in on Modoff, actually.
Yeah, that's our leader. Oh, and he looks to the inside. In fact, Modoff is going to have to cover him off down into the first turn. I'd say Macbeth has found his pace. We saw last round, once you get him going, and once he gets up to the lead, he's very hard to overtake back. This track maybe has a few more opportunities, a few better opportunities than we saw at Mid-Ohio, known for being difficult to overtake there. To ride on board with last round's winner, Sean Macbeth. You could see Modoff looking like he was weaving a bit, trying to break the draft.
Yeah, definitely a lot of strong slipstream with 2 Porsches up there at the front.
See if this does anything. 252, trailing behind Modoff. He's been chasing him much of this season. To come down to the chicane, this doesn't look like it'll be likely, though he does gain under braking heavily down into that chicane, back under the Suzuki bridge. This is where we saw him have a go before, down into turn 1. Could this be where Sean Macbeth is strong? He's strong, but not strong enough this time.
Yeah, and Sean Macbeth, he knows the point situation. He knows he has to be brave and bold in this race, and he has to make a move that maybe he wouldn't do in one of the earlier rounds of this season. And he knows that maybe a win, and if Modoff finishes second, isn't going to get him a championship, but he's got to at least try to get up there and pass that 48 car. I think we'll definitely see him throw something on him here in a couple laps.
Job 1 is finish ahead of Modoff. Whatever he does, he needs to take points away from him just to put himself in a better position. I think we've had an incident with Maxi Sorella, though, because he's fallen down the order. We got the replay. This is into turn 3, and I think it's a lone car incident.
Looks that way. Looks like he had just lost it, maybe under braking.
That is an easy spot to lose it under braking. It's turning, it's a crest. And yep, just the car nosing its way into what is pure concrete. There's no tires there to soften the blow. He was trying to correct it, and it just did not want to catch for him. So the number 20 car unfortunately falls to all the way at the back of the field. This is our 2 leaders once more. The Speedworks green and black car that you see, the 252, is Sean Macbeth. The teal and black car of the number 48 is Carl Modoff leading the way. Modoff is your points leader, and appropriately, second on track is also second in points, Sean Macbeth. Through turn 6, climbing their way to 7. What's fascinating here, Nick, is that though they've pulled a little bit of a gap over third place Flores, it's not a big gap. It's only 1.7 seconds. They're not really streaking away. And actually, I think a pass is about to happen here.
I think so too. It looks like Zachary Hefner on the right side, actually, of Flores, and he's got Acosta right behind him. This might be 2 passes in one turn. It looks like Acosta's going to back off, but Hefner is not going to. He makes that work on the outside.
Flores saw the writing on the wall early. He pulled off to the left to try to defend, but it was really not going to work because of the run that the 1-2-3 had. He finally gets onto the podium after starting this race in 6th position. What a climb for Zach. Behind them, you can see a bit of a train, though. Flores looked like he was something of a stopper in the bottle, because that's Acosta, Mobrotten, Eisler, and Espinoza all the way back to 8th running behind them. The S's climbing up to turn 5, right on board with Espinoza, the driver at the tail of the train in 8th. Just riding for now, for an opportunity. Behind them, we had a change for position. Federico Montini went wide, and Pablo Uribe managed to take advantage of it out of turn 5. Let's take a look and see how that happened. Actually, kind of lucky from Montini not to bin it in that corner. A lot of drivers do so when they make a mistake there.
Yeah, definitely a tricky part of the track. You can see just getting over all that curbing. Really unsettling feeling to run wide over there.
He held it together, not without losing the spot to Uribe, who's now P9, and Leif Peterson gaining behind them, looking to see if he could maybe have another one of those. Looking to see if he can rattle a mistake out of Federico. They come through turn 1, nice and smooth from all 3 cars this time. Maybe turn 3 will hold something for Peterson, but it is not to be.
Peterson qualified up in 8th, so a lot of pace in that 913 car, but hasn't really had the race pace that he wanted so far this race, but might be able to get him back, with a couple battles like this.
Let's stay with this, but the battle between our leaders, Modoff and Macbeth, has separated. It's up to 0.6 of a second. So what was awful close has spread apart. Looks like coming onto the back stretch here with Peterson. I don't think that's a good enough exit that he'll be able to go on the attack down to the chicane. Montini is awful far away. Flores has been passed by Hefner, but I called him the stopper in the bottle. Hefner hasn't run away quite yet. It's still Acosta close behind. He's got a great
real
run.
close.
To the inside, looking at turn 1, but defending him off from the outside. That is a great job by Flores. Now they're losing touch to Hefner with all that moving around on and off the racing line for Jorge Flores. Abner Acosta will have to look in his mirrors because Pete Mobrotten as well getting awful close, coming up to turn 5, has to check up. That interrupts his momentum slightly. This is getting fierce, and we've had a pass for the lead. Sean Macbeth has managed to get by, and very similar to what we saw with Montini before, a little bit of an error from Modoff has opened the door. Let's look at the replay.
Yeah, you said it. Just a little bit of a mistake from Modoff maybe here. Coming out of that tricky turn 5. That's all where it started.
You could see that it was finished in 6, just outbraked him, got his nose in. There you see the Porsche in front bouncing over the curbs. He knows it, but he doesn't block. And there goes Macbeth up to the front. Last time that happened at Mid-Ohio, Macbeth did not give the lead back. So they've stretched it out to about 2 seconds over Zach Hefner. Seems like since we looked at it, that 1.5 second gap is very quickly increased. Oh, and this time it's Macbeth with a mistake over the hill, going way wide.
They're
Rudolph,
definitely
though, not able to take advantage.
they're definitely using every inch of the track that they can, especially right there over the hill. Let's see what kind of run Modoff gets here on Macbeth.
He's behind him. And you pointed out, Modoff doesn't need to worry too much, even if he's beaten by Macbeth. It's still going to be, what, roughly 18, 19 points between them coming in the last round?
Yeah, I think it's going to be 18 points, which, I mean, that's still a very comfortable margin for Modoff, I believe.
Yeah, now that I think of it, Modoff took the pole, which is a bonus point. So that makes it 22 points as it stands, separating them before the finish. Looking a little bit farther back into ninth. Remember, Montini got overtaken by Uribe. He's been holding on, but at the same time, he's not able to shake Leif Peterson, who you mentioned qualified a little bit higher than where he's sitting now. Oh, and Macbeth lost the lead. Every time we look away, and once again, it is turn 5.
It's 3 times in a row that this has caught them out, and this is a big slide for Macbeth here as we look at replay.
It is, yeah. Let's get an onboard on this one if we can from Macbeth's view. This is, oh great, look at this. This will be even better from Modoff's perspective. Look at the rear axle get all the way off the ground.
That's
What a monster save.
That cannot be mechanically healthy for that car. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That is a rallycross jump.
And he's taken the lead back right now. He got to run down the front stretch. Modoff didn't fend off the inside, and Sean Macbeth back up to the front. It is a back and forth that is slowing them up. It is 9/10 of a second back to Zach Hefner. All 3 of these drivers that you see on your screen have all won so far this year. This season, I should say.
And if they keep battling like this, Zach Hefner, like you said, he is reeling them in. He is really starting to catch them.
Oh, yeah, he is. It is down to half a second now. Half a lap ago, it was 9/10. Coming onto the backstretch. Hefner's got to be loving this. So, we have reached the start of the pit window. 30 minutes left to go. Less than 30 minutes left to go. This time, no action down into the chicane as Modoff is going to elect to stay behind Sean Macbeth. But wow, Zach Hefner, he closed in and then some under the braking. These 3 streaking away from Abner Acosta, who is back and forth. It is about 2 seconds from 3rd to 4th place.
Yeah, it's looking like Hefner might be a good challenge for Modoff right now. That might distract Modoff a little bit, trying to keep in touch with Macbeth for the lead here. They are also coming up on Mike Richter lap traffic, but I'm not sure if that's going to play too much of a factor for him.
Yeah, Richter is the last car running right now, and for all of us hyping up how dangerous this track can be, I think everybody's heeded the warning because we've had no DNFs so far. With Zach looking up ahead at Carl Modoff. Modov's starting to gain slightly on Sean. Let's see if he takes a look to the inside. He's getting awful close down into the braking, and that looks like a lift to me. He's not going to attempt it quite yet.
Very similar to him trying to get around Jorge Flores early in this race. He was very patient, especially headed down into that chicane, and finally waited for Flores to make a mistake. And with as hard of a battle as Modov and Macbeth are having in front of him, that's very possible for him to be able to take second place or maybe even steal the lead here.
That's a very good point. The way that Hefner rocked up behind Flores looks very, very similar to what we're seeing right now. And they plunge their way through the valley of the S's and up over the crest of turn 5. Nobody really able to take advantage quite yet, but you can tell that those top two have not only been pushing, but have been pushing somewhat past the limit, because both Modov and Macbeth have seen nearly race-ending mistakes early on in this race. Getting close to the halfway point now.
Yeah, I don't want to throw another variable into all this battling, but they still have to make a pit stop as well somewhat soon. That's going to be interesting to see when they all do it.
Oh, Justin Rames had a problem. Out of turn 7. I think he managed to avoid the wall. You see the Porsche getting the car going once more. But of all the places you don't want to lose momentum, that would certainly be one. Watch this one more time, and then after that, let's stay on the replay, but switch it over to Pete Mobrodin, because he's lost a bunch of spots, and that was due to car contact with Jorge Flores.
Oh yeah, this is in the chicane.
Yeah, there's a spin. All we got to do is switch over to Mobrodin. Here you're going to see it right here. It looks like he got a run on Flores. I think this was netcode.
Bit of netcode, yeah, you're right. Unfortunate.
Yeah, that is upsetting for Pete, because that was very clean and a nicely executed pass until then. He should have been able to continue on, but the nature of the internet has meant that he got bumped off when there wasn't any actual car contact. Mobrodin now down to 12th because of that. So what does that do to that train that we were looking at before? Well, Acosta's running away. He's up in 4th. Flores now has Eisler behind him. The Iceman has only gained 1 position since the grid, and now he's certainly happy to see another one possibly come into his clutches. And that car you see behind both of them is Andre Espinosa in the number 87.
Yeah, they're still all bunched up here. This was a 5 or 6 car battle. It's definitely, attrition has shown itself among this group.
And yet it hasn't taken any of the cars off the track quite yet. They've just fallen by the wayside. 24 minutes left to go on the clock as they come towards turn 6, being led by Jorge Flores. This has not been the number 929's race. He qualified it in 3rd, and then ever since the green dropped, he's just been falling backwards and under threat every single time we look at him.
Yeah, he looked really solid in the first couple of laps too, battling with Acosta. He got around Acosta pretty handily at one point early on, but after that, you're right, just kind of lost the pace and remains in 5th right now.
Let's jump way far back in the field. Oh, and I just jinxed him before I could even say anything. Mike Cray in the number 29 loses a position where he was about to gain one. He was all over the back of Josh Daniels, and I was about to sing his praises because, again, he qualified 2nd to last. He'd gained about 5 or 6 spots, and then suddenly, just as I look at him, he spins it coming out of 6.
Yeah, just fighting hard with him. Maybe a little bit of curb there. Looks like
it started to go as soon as he turned in, yeah.
And actually, Josh Daniels has just taken it to the pits. I'm not sure if it's a scheduled stop or this looks like he's got a little rear end damage.
Fact. Whether it's scheduled or not, he's definitely within the pit window, so at least Daniels is safe to make it to the end. To see if he has a long stop, though. Oh, he does not. He's going to come back out. That Porsche is going to be the second to last car running now.
Still pretty early in that pit window for those front runners. Sean McBeth continuing to lead this one. Karl Modhoff, his mirrors are full of Zach Hefner, still looking for that second place.
As it looks like Macbeth is finding something in that car and has now stretched it to about 0.6 of a second. A huge gap back to and Modhoff, as you mentioned, dealing with Zach Hefner, climbing all over the rear spoiler, and another case of swinging wide from turn 5. Oh, Modhoff, my goodness. Only so many times he's going to be able to get away with that. I fear the worst for these three.
Yeah, they've gotten away with it, for the first half of the race. They're only going to get more and more aggressive as this thing picks up. Another person to watch out for is Abner Acosta. He seems to be slowly but surely reeling in the front runners as well.
Yeah, looking at his last few laps of 15.5, 15.5, 15.8. Compare that to Hefner at 15.8, 15.6, 15.9. So you're right. That is... Abner Acosta is trying to join the fun in this battle for the podium.
It kind of tells me that maybe Hefner's faster than Modhoff. He's just being pulled up by him right now.
Well, and as soon as we say that, Modhoff has closed the gap down to 0.3 behind Macbeth. This has been a fascinating race. Mostly because of this battle for the lead. I can't really tell if any one of these drivers has the edge over the other.
Yeah, they all. You're right. They'll swap positions, and then it'll look like they'll be held up by the person in front of them. Very competitive speeds here, very similar to each other.
They hit the backstretch one more time, and Modhoff was awful close coming out of turn 6. Macbeth has given him a wonderful tow. But is this enough of a tow? I don't think so. Modhoff starts to hit his plateau as they come into the braking for the final chicane. Indeed, he doesn't even close under the braking. It is once again Zach Hefner who looks much, much stronger than these two on the binders. Only had a couple other cars pit. Corey Clark has been in and out. Richter's in again, and I think this might be unscheduled for him. Indeed, actually, Richter is our first DNF of the day. As he had a wreck a while ago, I don't think we'll be able to get a replay of this. Just spun it into the concrete, and it was too hard of a hit. He blew an engine. Looks like number 88 going to take his pit stop. That number feels like they should have a DeLorean out here. Going back to the mid-pack. Federico Montini and Leif Peterson have been stuck together ever since they were overtaken by Pablo Uribe. And in fact, Uribe's pulled a beautiful gap of about 3.5 seconds to these two. There you see the red car ahead of him on your screen. Seen very few takers for the pits for an early stop. One of the drivers that hasn't pitted is Maxi Sorella. But Corey Clark has pitted, and this is bad news. Maybe this is why we're not seeing pitters, because there's a puff of smoke through turn 6, locking him up. Corey Clark is being held up by the number 22.
Corey Clark just pitting, trying to fight his way back up to the field. Taking a peek to the inside. That's basically the outside now, but it looks like he's going to get that position.
Maxi tried to defend, but it didn't look like that one was going to work. So, managing to get himself a little bit of clear track. Now Corey Clark can put his foot down. Still 25 runners out on track. Let's take a look at that battle for the lead once more, because it is not pulled apart. And it is still the same 3 cars. Acosta is still pulling up to the back of them, but it's not as quick as we saw before. It is only 1.5 seconds now.
Yeah, it seems to have fallen off just a little bit, and I think that might be because the front 3 have stretched out a little bit as well. They seem to be not battling as aggressively.
Realizing working together probably a little bit better. See 4th place. Let's stay with this, but I can tell you that Jean-Marc Tremblay has also pitted. Seen a few of the mid-packers come in.
You know, we mentioned Acosta losing that gap to the leaders. He's actually still closing in on him quite a bit.
It's down to 1.3, so maybe he's listening to the broadcast, realizing he's got to start hustling. So another 2/10 as we look back from 3rd place Hefner at the 4th place car of Acosta.
When will these top 3, top 4 drivers come in?
There's one. That is our leader, Sean Macbeth. Comes screaming into the pits, hits the cones, and gets it down to the pit limiter in time.
I like that decision from him. I like that call. He kind of covers off any kind of undercut from anyone else. I was wondering if Hefner was going to duck in early.
Yeah, and isn't allowing any of the 2 behind him to save any more fuel that he'd already allowed them to do.
Yeah, I think that's going to play out well for him. Oh, as Modov has a scary moment, actually.
Macbeth is back out. Hefner isn't able to overtake Modov. And Acosta has now got it down to 1 second. This is all ahead of Jorge Flores, who's now been promoted to 4th after Macbeth takes his stop. Flores is a whole 5.5 seconds behind those 3. So if you're Modov then, Nick, do you stay out? Do you pit in response?
Well,
stays out this time.
I was about to say, I'll have an answer for you in about 15 seconds.
Oh, we've had a spin. Christian Eisler. This might have been due to contact. They're in the chicane. There you can see him stop. Let's take a look at the replay. He was tussling with Espinoza. They did.
I don't think so. I think Eisler just got in there a little too hot. I think he was trying to outbrake him and did it to himself. I'm wondering, though, if that was a little bit of netcode behind, or from behind. He had already lost at that point, but...
He decided to pit this lap along with many other drivers. Flores pitting. Espinoza's already been in and out. Modov continued on. So did Hefner. Acosta's still out there. Beth stays as our highest pitter. And did Flores have a long stop? Where is he on the timing and scoring now? This is... What is going on with Jorge? He's now up to 30 seconds. This is more than a penalty. And this is our front group all coming into the pits.
Yeah, this is looking good for Modov to stay out in front of Hefner. As long as he has a clean stop. He's angled himself nicely to get out.
And Macbeth is coming around the final corner. Who is that? who's out getting first there, actually? Is that Hef?
I think it
Hef
is.
jumps the wall. And in fact, he's going to jump Macbeth as well. So does Karl Modoff, our leader. Seems to have missed a trick. And in all of that, your new leader is now Zach Hefner.
Wow.
Hef's one win so far came at Spa. Much longer track. And that one, he held off Acosta and Modoff. One of those drivers is behind him. The other's trying to play catch-up, Abner Acosta.
Definitely more of a shakeup than I had anticipated with those three.
I was surprised that Macbeth got jumped. That to me says that Hefner and to some extent Modoff were being slightly held up by Sean. So this changes the complexion of things. Oh, and a mistake coming out of the final chicane for Zach Hefner. Modoff swings around the outside, and he's going to retake the lead.
Hefner looking strong coming back in turn one, though. He's not going to be able to put a move on him here. Might set something up through the S's. Oh, all three of them looking bold.
And this is a nightmare scenario for Sean and Macbeth. If you're just joining us, Modoff and Macbeth are fighting for the points championship. And right now, Karl Modoff has a 22-point lead before the finish of this race. With the lead, the pole position bonus points, and a car between them, it's going to make life very hard coming into the final round for Sean.
Abner Acosta has not lost touch of these guys either, though. He's really kind of closed in on him.
You can see Tremblay coming back on the course. He had a lone car spin coming out of turn one. He managed not to hit the wall, thankfully. Oh, and Hef now overtaken by Macbeth. Sean gets him down into the chicane and sets his sight on his championship rival.
It was looking good for Hefner after the pit stops, but not so much anymore. Hefner really close, tucked up behind Sean Macbeth through turn one.
Surprised he didn't stick his nose in down there. Probably could have.
I think he's hoping Macbeth gets up here, races with Modoff, and they get into a little bit of a tussle.
Maybe thinking safety here. He could get a better opportunity later down the line as we ride on board with the Ohio driver.
If Hefner's not careful, he's going to be swallowed up off this podium as well. Acosta has caught these guys.
We ride on board with the fourth place driver, Abner Acosta. Number 19, making his presence known. And we just want to give a little bit of a thought to James LeBlanc. Unfortunately, couldn't be here because of some emergency issues with his family that had to be taken care of, some unfortunate health problems, it sounds like. So thoughts go out to him and his family. Sorry that you couldn't make the race today. Macbeth hounding Modoff very quickly. Didn't take him long to try and go on the attack, and Modoff knows it. He plays defense down into turn one. Is he going to be able to hold him off? Looking for the over-under. Sean Macbeth. He could get the inside down into turn three, but he's not quite there.
He's definitely looking. He's letting Modoff know that he's going to go for this position in the last 8.5 minutes of this race.
Since earlier in the broadcast, the track has cooled down to 71 degrees, but the action on the track has heated up as this is the battle for the lead involving 4 cars within a second. And we've only got 8 minutes left to go. Any one of these 4, I think, are a viable bet to take the win.
I think Zach Hefner and Abner Acosta might be in a perfect situation right now in the popcorn positions back there. As long as they don't tangle with each other, I think if Macbeth is able to stick up here with Modoff and get into a bit of a tangle with him.
And if you're Acosta, at what point do you go? Because you can't sit back and forth forever.
Exactly.
And Oh my goodness, Macbeth is so strong off the chicane. This is the second time in a row he's used that to good effect. This time, though, he's fully got the inside down into the first corner. Can he make it stick? Modoff backs out of it early. He tries the over-under that didn't work for him. Tries to cover him off. Modoff backs out of it, though.
Zachary Heffner almost stuck his nose in that mix as well, but he thought better of it. He wants these two up front to tangle, not him.
Couldn't have asked for a better situation here in the penultimate round. Our two drivers fighting for the championship. Macbeth not wanting to give up. He's only got a single victory compared to Karl Modoff taking 4 so far this season.
Everyone looks pretty strong through there, onto the backstretch.
A little dead even this time.
Pretty good for Modoff, especially.
Oh yeah, Modoff is starting to reel him in. So while Sean is strong coming off the chicane, it's coming into the chicane that we've got Karl Modoff going on to the attack. Oh no! That was a big hit as Zach Heffner slides into the gravel. Abner Acosta got him, and that nearly took out Modoff. Let's look at the replay.
Zach Heffner, I think he made a very evasive move at the last second to avoid hitting Modoff. Not sure if that was intentional or not, but either way, he avoided him.
And you could see the battle up ahead. He was a little slow, and Acosta was not expecting him to check up the way he did.
Acosta has let him back by, I can report as well.
This brings Espinoza into the fight with those two. We come back. Heffner's pulled a little bit of a gap. Acosta now under threat from Andre, as I mentioned, the number 87. You see him behind. What was that 4-car fight? It's now been whittled down to 2. And in fact, it might be a battle for the lead right now. Sorry, go ahead.
They had a big enough gap where they didn't lose any positions. But yeah, like you said, Modoff and Macbeth, that leaves them out front all by themselves. Let's see if Macbeth can hold him off.
Let's stay with this. We've had another DNF since we last looked, Cristobal Valenzuela, and I think Jorge Flores is not going to be returning to this race because he's still sitting in pit lane since he came in and stopped. Up and over the crest of 3. That is Karl Modoff, our current championship points leader, giving chase to the man who is chasing him in the points, Sean Macbeth. They rise over turn 5, and this is certainly not over by any stretch of the imagination. 4 and some minutes left to go.
Maxi Sorella, the next lap car in front of him, I believe that's not going to become an issue for these two, especially on the backstretch here.
That's if he pulls over. He's still a little ways ahead. I'm sure they'd love him to pull over. Let's see what Maxi does. We're on board with Karl Modoff. I think Sorella's lifting.
I don't think so. They might catch him here coming out of the last turn, but right behind him, side by side.
Looking around the outside. This is where Sean has been his absolute strongest, coming off of that chicane. And yet again, he shows it as he pulls the gap up to about 0.4 of a second over Modoff, even though he was just under attack. I think we had another DNF as Justin Rame seems to have had a problem and taken a tow into the pits. Oh, and who was that that just spun off? Was that our lapped car?
That was Sorella. Yeah.
Woo, that was a hairy moment for our leaders.
Yeah, I was thinking he was pulling over just for a second, but that was, if that was pulling over, that was pretty aggressive.
Too aggressive as he plunged it into the tires. You're going to see here, gets back on the throttle, and suddenly it gets away from him. Yeah, I think that was just plain error from him.
Yeah.
Puts it on his lid, actually. Interesting. This is where we've seen Modoff make multiple attempts, and none of them have worked out so far. This time he doesn't go on the challenge.
Ooh, Modoff in the curbs a little bit. That definitely hurt him through there.
Meanwhile, we got a battle between Acosta and Espinoza. And Acosta's going to hold off the SRT driver for the moment. But I'd say that the 87 certainly looming in the mirrors of Abner Acosta. We're going to get a white flag next time. I'm not sure. Actually, maybe we won't.
It's going to be close.
I think we are going to be 2 to go. Because it was about 2:48 when they crossed the line.
Yeah. I think by about 10 or 15 seconds it's going to be 2 to go.
Down the back stretch, whether it's 1 lap or 2 laps to go, time is running out for Karl Modoff. I said it before, when Macbeth gets into the lead, he has a hard nut to crack. Modoff is finding this out as they come through the chicane. And you're right, it is going to be 2 laps to go this time by. Ooh, this is a really good run, though. Onto the front stretch from Modoff. He's closing, just not willing to try and put his nose out into the first corner this time.
On board with Modoff, trying to watch him attack here.
We need to get creative here because we've seen that Sean seems ready to cover him off when they come into that chicane. It just hasn't quite worked out for Karl. I mean, if you were in Karl's shoes, where else are you going to try and put your nose in?
Well, one place he could start, I mean, this is a strategy, but he might just want to hold back and take the points day at this point.
Interesting theory.
I don't think that's what he's going to do, though, based off of what we've seen from him.
Yeah, I think he wants to win. The way that he won every single round last season. Oh, he takes a little look, and there's no coverage from Macbeth that time through. Okay, then. They cross the line as the white flag flies. 1 lap to go. Karl Modoff is incredibly close, and this time he does take a little bit of a look. Just a psychological move, though. He is way too far back to make it stick on Sean Macbeth. They come up to turn 3. Both of them nice and smooth over the curbs. And then it heads back downhill through turn 4. All he has to do is keep steady, fend off Karl Modoff, but sometimes that's easier said than done, and Modoff's going to make it a little bit easier as he makes a big mistake into turn 5. This gap could be exactly what Sean Macbeth needs to take his 2nd win in a row.
Just a little mistake over the curbs there from Modoff. He's got to be strong here on the backstretch, get as much slipstream as possible, and dive it down into the chicane.
I don't think this is enough. I think he is way too far back. That's Josh Daniels, who is lap traffic. You can see ahead of them. But Modoff is not gaining. They come down to the chicane for the last time. Can't even make an attempt at it. Sean Macbeth back on the throttle over the hill. And another little slip up from Modoff is definitely going to mean that Sean Macbeth takes win number 2. Modoff minimizes the damage, taking 2nd. And Zach Hefner ruining this 3rd place, knowing he could have fought for the win.
Abner Acosta behind him. He's going to be able to hold off Andres Espinoza at the line to take that 4th place.
Pablo Uribe, get this, he started 13th. He finishes 6th today, the 23.
Yeah, where'd he come from?
Yeah, that was a quiet but affirmative drive. Mo Broughton manages to get home in 7th, and Federico Montini grabs 8th. See if we got any more battles. I see Ravito just squeaking ahead of Corey Clark. And I believe Takeshi Kita is our next closest fight. This is down in 18th place ahead of Mike Cray. Thinks about it a little bit, but unfortunately for that BMW, who did climb a number of places from 26 to 19th is the best he's going to be able to do. That's the last of our field on the lead lap. So with that, let's take it to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you can see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC.
I can still remember what it was like the first time I stepped into a race car. The sound of the engine, the anticipation, but I never could have imagined where this journey would take me. My father once told me that racing is just like life. You have to stay on your toes, because you never know what's around the next corner. My name is Bill Watson, and this is my story.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. We just watched the penultimate round here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And, well, Sean Macbeth took his second victory. He took a while to get his first one, but now it looks like he's got the momentum going. Karl Modoff certainly looked like he was trying to take it away, but he is still holding on to the points lead, even though he was beaten by Sean Macbeth here for the second time. Zach Hefner finishes in third. He started from sixth position. I have to think that maybe he was cost a chance at the win by the driver who finished behind him. Abner Acosta ran into him, gave the spot back, but I'm sure that's a little consolation for the 1-2-3 car. Andre Espinoza finishes fifth, just hassling Acosta all the way home. Pablo Uribe, as we mentioned, one of the hard chargers of the race, getting a sixth place finish, having started 13th on the grid. Pete Mobraten finishes seventh. And then Federico Montini finishes eighth. The Iceman, not the race that he seemed to have wanted today. He finishes in ninth, and then Brett Thurman rounds out your top 10.
Behind Thurman there in 10th, it's going to be Leif Peterson after starting 8th today. A great start for him, but a little bit worse of a finish. Still a great finish for him, though. 11th place on the grid here at Road Atlanta. Dan Ravito coming up from 17th to that 12 spot. Spot number 12 for him. Corey Clark behind them. Going to finish 13th. Tremblay had some problems, but he's going to scrounge a 14th. Joey Trungale from 19th to 15th on the grid today. Munoz behind them in 16th. Kenneth Rodriguez in 17th. 18th, right where he started, Takeshi Kita. 19th, Mike Cray moves up 7 spots, and moving up 4 spots, Hugo Galaz will round out the top 20.
Last car to finish on the lead lap was Josh Daniels, and then you had the DNFs after him. Justin Rame, Maxi Sorella, Jorge Flores, man, third on the grid to this. Cristobal Valenzuela, and Mike Richter, the last of your fields. We have our winner ready to talk to us. Sean Macbeth now has 2 on the trot, and though he's got momentum on his side, he has a very steep hill to climb. So Sean, I'm sure it feels good to win a second race in a row, but I'm sure you've been looking at the points after this is over and thinking, oh, this is going to be tough.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, it's a bit late in the season really to kind of steal it unless something bad happens, which hopefully it doesn't. But yeah, from now on, my goal is just to win. That's it.
It seems like in both of your wins, one of your strengths has been playing beautiful defensive races. When you've been under attack, uh, you make it incredibly hard for the drivers behind you to get by. But nothing was on the edge and nothing seemed overly aggressive. I mean, what's the trick that you managed to just put yourself so out of reach?
That's a speed secret there, Joe. I've been racing for a long part of my life in various disciplines, and it's just something you learn over the years, especially with intense battling. You just learn where to place your car, and having a mirror definitely helps. But yeah, it's just something I've honed over the years, and thankfully, it's a skill that's working out, paying off.
So, could you potentially use these two finishes, and especially if you make it a hat trick with the next one, to maybe carry momentum into the following season if Modoff comes back and challenge him for the victory or for the championship just by taking these wins and carrying it over and try to start winning more next season.
I'd like to, but it might be kind of difficult. The We'll say the competition committee, if you will, the league is debating on whether to move the race up, which makes it really hard, even harder for me to get home in time for the race. I really want to run next season, so I'm going to be voting against that. But we'll see. It all depends on what the scheduling is going to be like next season.
The complications of sim racing, unfortunately, but still, congratulations on the win today. That was Sean Macbeth, victory lane for the second time in a row. And Nick has caught up with the driver who finished in third, Zach Hefner.
I have indeed caught up with Zach Hefner, finishing third, like you said, in the 1-2-3 car, fitting to where he finished on the podium today. The driver out of Ohio, though, Zach, that was a heck of a race you had to deal with there.
Yeah, that was really, thrilling once I caught up to Sean and Carl. They definitely were flying up there. I was happy to catch them and get in their draft, and they were running awesome clean lines, and I was happy to be up there. And then the pit exchange, I mean, it was wild.
Yeah, absolutely. So that pit exchange I want to ask you about. You came out the leader, but then you weren't able to hold on there. What happened there? Uh, did you have the pit stop you wanted, or just come out slow, or what all happened there regarding that?
Oh, I think I had an awesome pit stop. It just was everything. Coming in, I think I had a good run in. Carl kind of came in hot, and I think he was scared about getting a penalty for coming in a little hot. Might have locked it up, and I hit my box perfect, hit my fuel perfect, hit the throttle perfect, and hit the pit limiter off perfect. Got out, and I think just once we got back around to the chicane, I hit the divot in the curb, and it just got me a little loose.
Yeah, and I riding back, on board with you a lot in this race because we were watching Sean Macbeth and Carl Modoff in front of you. Were you riding more popcorn position, waiting for something to happen? Were you being patient, or were you, going as fast as you can, trying to make as many moves as possible there?
Definitely cognizant of them being, it's it's both of their championships. I don't have a mathematical shot, so I don't have a dog in this fight per se. So just trying to let them be clean, and then take advantage of any opportunity that comes. Really, I mean, I was ready to pounce if the opportunity arised.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to say, we all like your paint scheme there. I believe that's a new one, if I'm not mistaken. But is there anyone you want to give a thank you or a shout out to before we let you go this evening?
Yes, if you don't mind. Yeah, so it is a new team. I'm parting from SRT mutually. I love all those guys. I'm still racing with them. We're still chilling in the voice chat. It's a new team that I was given the chance to open up with a software developer, Racing Sim Tools, to develop a new setup and telemetry app to kind of combat the big three, if you will, setup shops within the iRacing community. He's opening up his new app. He was big in Project Cars 2, and his new app is going to be available for all sims that he is able to, iRacing obviously being one of them. And he is sponsoring my team along with Sim Racing Lounge. Bunch of guys, 300 group of guys, R Factor, iRacing, everything. I was lucky enough to get together with a bunch of guys and open up a new team. So excited for the future.
That is awesome. Well, you started off on the right foot tonight, I'd say. A solid third place finish. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you, if not next week at Daytona, later on in the upcoming seasons. But congratulations tonight and good luck next week.
Thank you very much. I'll be there.
That was third place, Zach Hefner. And I believe that closes up our interviews for today. Guess Carl did not want to talk to us after that battle. Might be a little bit wiped. So a big thank you goes out to SIMSA, the sponsor this season. At simsa.net is exactly where you can find them. They've been with us for a couple seasons now, so a big thank you goes out to them for all their support to make these races get to air. And to Fraser and Dieter, our new sponsor for this season. FraserDieter.com is where you can go check them out. Don't forget to give them a look if you need any services of accounting and taxes. Now, also, a thank you goes to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to them when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race that we're doing for the finale of all places at Daytona's Road Course. That'll be Tuesday, May 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern. That should be a stunner. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and see you on the track.